your command help support USARAF?
So the 79th is the Theater Sustainment Command for all of Africa and USARAF. Our job is to provide logistics planning and capabilities for all of USARAF. So basically in exercises, today we do it through exercises because we're just in our initial startup. As of September of 2017, we will be in initial operating conditions, and we're continuing to build our capability forward. This will give us additional planning live, co-located in Vicenza with USARAF, and at the same time we will continue to maintain a headquarters capability in California, in Los Alamitos, California. This capability allows us to both plan for major long-term operations as well as near-term logistics planning for all of USARAF. Within that, we will have the ability to not just do the paperwork planning and requests for forces, but also to help USARAF determine what are the exact right types of elements to put forward to support any of their operations on the continent.
And will this dual partnership help enable forces when they get on the ground here in Africa?
So the short answer is yes, but quite frankly, we are a senior headquarters that provides the planning and the resourcing for the logistics capabilities for USARAF. To say that your question intimated more that it was like an on-the-ground element. This is a much more senior headquarters. We're actually, well, as you can tell, it's a two-star headquarters. So our job is to make sure that we bring the right resources, the right subordinate elements to support any of the USARAF elements that are on the ground. And we also have a commitment or a requirement to support AFRICOM on the land capabilities. So whenever AFRICOM has a major land requirement, they will go to the ASCC, which is USARAF with General Harrington. He will then come to me from a logistics perspective and say, how can we best support this land requirement in all of Africa? And that's what we would plan.
Okay. What role would you say that reserve soldiers have in supporting the total force, the total army?
So in the total army, or in relation to USARAF?
In relation to USARAF, I guess.
Okay, so in supporting the total army, it's just part of the army. I mean, quite frankly, if you understand the Theater Sustainment Command concept, each major theater combatant command has a Theater Sustainment Command. So in Europe, you have the 21st Sustainment Command, Theater Sustainment Command. In the Pacific, you have the 8th Theater Sustainment Command, and in Central Command, you have the 1st Theater Sustainment Command. AFRICOM and Africa was the only theater that did not have a Theater Sustainment Command directly associated with it. What I left out was we also have the 377th currently allocated to Southern Command, and we have the 167th, the National Guard Theater Sustainment Command, that handles Northern Command. So AFRICOM was the one major one that was missing it, and so they stood up the 79th, or we are in the process of standing it up to be a Theater Sustainment Command, and we will support them. So I don't really look at it as in what manner does the reserve support it. Mm-hmm. We're just part of the total army. We each have, every single one of our sustainment commands has an area of the world, and some happen to be active duty, some are guard, and some are reserve.
Okay. So in your perspective, being here during ALFS, what was one of the things that you gained the most from, experience-wise or just knowledge?
So the greatest thing that we got out of this is really the relationships, because quite frankly, especially as you're dealing on the African continent, there are significant inroads that need to be made with developing them and helping them develop what their capabilities are, their capacity, especially in the area of logistics. But it starts with relationships, more so here than in most theaters, because without trust, without building the trust so that they understand that we're truly here to help them because it's in our best interest for them to succeed, we don't succeed. And so what we're doing right here, so that's why it's not really what did I learn the most, it's what did I gain the most, which is really the ability to talk to these people freely, openly, and to continue communications afterwards. We see this with all of the senior officials here. There's some really good relationships that have been built. Be very easy to pick up the phone and talk to each other about questions that they may have in the future, or that we may have. That if we need to understand an area of operations within Africa, and how we can help them, or just how we can help ourselves as we're bringing units into an area. It's very convenient now to be able to pick up the phone and talk to them and understand what's going on the ground and what they're going to need or what we're going to need in order to succeed.
Did you have an additional question?
I've got one more.
Yeah.
How do you see the reserves and the missions they support in Africa to increase the readiness of the reserve soldier?
That's a great question. So one of the issues we've had over years, and this isn't just Africa, but it's probably mostly in Africa, has been the issue with being tasked for one or two people to just do something. And what that tends to do is it tends to consume our readiness. So we send people away, we break up an organization, we break up a structure just to meet a requirement. What we're pursuing, and one of the biggest advantages of having the Theater Sustainment Command co-located with USARAF, is the ability to turn those taskers into true missions. Rather than one or two people, turn it into a 5 or 10 man section. If I take it from a 20-person education team to a company of some type, this allows us to build our readiness while at the same time supports their needs. It also helps us combine funding so that, basically, yeah, it may cost a little bit more, but we actually get readiness out of it. So by doing that, we turn taskers, which are readiness consumers, into missions, which are readiness enhancers.